Yo, before we start, shout out to Zato Rock for correctly guessing Edwin Murray, who is the character we are focusing on today. Congratulations to you. So next question is, who is the first to die in the MCI? Good luck guessing and enjoy. What's up everyone, it's TGBSV. So while I was making story of Jeremy as well as a few others video, I remembered how here is basically to that much video dedicated for Edwin Murray's lore, and not that many people know this pivotal character for the new era of FNAF. Some still think he's some sort of Henry's parallels, which is pretty much false when you actually look into the character. I'm also still working on Mimic's story since 2 months actually, and something that make me not want to finish this long script is because it felt incomplete to cover Mimic without doing his creator first. Could have done Mimic then Edwin, but it felt like too much of a go back, so today I'll cover what we know about Edwin Murray's full lore, Mimic's creator. From the age of 4, young Edwin began to have a fascination with machine, and by the age of 8 he knew he wanted to build useful robot that would change people's life. He believed in automating life's most mundane tasks and was sure he could create robots to replace most household chores. Around his last high school year, he met a woman named Fiona who later became his wife and got his first patent on a robotic vacuum cleaner that sold well enough to fund a good life for Edwin and Fiona, who acquired an abandoned lace factory to house Edwin's new business in an old Queen Anne mansion. They had planned to restore the mansion to its original grandeur, with Fiona planning to use the lace still within the factory. However, Fiona would die giving birth to David shortly after. The robotic vacuum cleaners didn't have the longevity customers expected and complaints began to roll in. Edwin, however, was unable to focus on working on a fix or replacement to the vacuum due to David's constant need for attention. Edwin later converted a factory into a small apartment. Because he was unable to manage a house and his factory at the same time, Edwin continued to make adjustments and changes for David's sake. He created a wooden white tiger bed which mimicked David's favorite toy, a plush tiger named Tiger. David never defied Edwin's order of never going too far of the factory. Al thought Edwin did notice David began to become more adventurous. Time skipped to a certain March in the 80s. Edwin is 24 years old and is working on a bright yellow chick when David interrupt him and accidentally make him damage the animatronic's head, which frustrate Edwin, but make him realize not being able to take care of David was one of his biggest problem and started more and more considering the idea of creating a robot to take care of David. So he decided to pass 3 weeks dedicated to create that robot. The robot was made to mimic what it observed. When he was asked to give it a name, he simply named it Mimic, named after it program name Mimic 1. Once activated, the Mimic began to mimic David's action. David quickly learned how it functioned and began to have fun with it. Over the next few weeks Edwin began to feel more energetic and ready to work. He continued to upgrade the Mimic and work his hand movement to communicate thing. One day, David asked Edwin to buy Mimic its own tiger plushie, but since they don't have the money, David and Mimic create their own makeshift plush from lace and string. He feel more and more confident to let Mimic take care of David. Mimic is not only able to mimic, but now also respond. The next few days while Edwin is making breakfast, David runs outside to play. Edwin then decide to runs at him as he chase his ball into the road, and get hit by white vans. Edwin's world begins to blur together as he mourns the death of his son. For the next 2 weeks, Edwin is grieving the death of his only son, but continue to work. Edwin considered deactivating Mimic, but doesn't have the energy to. While he's working on a blue rabbit endoskeleton, Mimic climbs into the table to ask for ice cream, just like his son David. Seeing Mimic use David's code overwhelm Edwin with fury and self-recriminations. This rage push him to snap and destroy Mimic with a metal rod, repeatedly striking Mimic, badly damaging his face, spine, rib cage, arms and pincers, infecting his rage agony to the Mimic, eventually running out of strength. His angers turn into regret as he cries and leave this place. 40 years after this, Edwin is forced to come back to Fazbear Entertainment as he run out of money. He is placed as a Fazbear Entertainment board of directors, where he wasn't really that appreciated. Most members didn't like him and Edwin didn't like them back. One day, during a meeting with an accountant, Mr. Burroughs decides to downsize creative development due to the Mega Pizzaplex not making enough money with its current setup. Edwin tries to argue against the decision, claiming that Fazbear Entertainment is driven by story. Burroughs suggests automating the creative process, creating a computer program to combine various tropes and characters to come up with stories. Mr. Burroughs calls the program the Storyteller. Despite Edwin's attempts to stall, the storyteller quickly leaves the concept phase. Edwin suggests a baobab tree since they're one of the longest living trees, one of the hardest, are very large and somewhat bizarre looking, and has all sorts of legends associated with them. The team agrees with Edwin's idea, which is one of the only visible contributions he makes to it. When Edwin discovers he isn't allowed inside the tree's trunk, he confronts Mr. Burrows about it only to be told that the construction crew are the only ones allowed inside. Determined to find a way in, he scavenges for memos and discovers that the larger parts of the storyteller were being transferred into the tree trunk at 11:42 p.m. on a Thursday night. Edwin sneaks through the loading dock and hides in Monty's Gator Golf. The sight of what's being carried into the tree gives Edwin flashbacks to David's death and he has a panic attack. He comes back to his senses and continues to watch three men carry a large, animatronic tiger head into the tree. The next day, Edwin confronts Mr. Burrows to ask what program was being used to create the storyteller's stories, but he doubts the answer he gets and decides he needs to see its programming himself. Edwin tries his best but is unable to get his hands on any of the storyteller's programming specs by the time it's brought online. Edwin begins to hang around various Pizzaplex venues and observes numerous issues with the animatronics. He brings up the personality changes to Mr. Burrows, but he is dismissive of it. Mid-morning on Friday, Edwin goes to the Fazbear Archives building to look at the storyteller's project plans. He discovers that the door can only be opened using a hidden palm scanner that only accepted Mr. Burrows and two others' palms. However, stored within the network of roller coaster tracks and maintenance stairs is an extendable catwalk that allows maintenance access to the tree. Edwin enters the storyteller's tree and sees the storyteller in its fully glory for the first time. The sight of a large white metal tiger head with one eye painted a deep emerald green and the other a brilliant blue, a bust mounted on the trunk's walls, and four arms emerging from its neck gives Edwin another panic attack. He calms himself and finds a small inset in the wall with a compact computer terminal. The start screen tells him that his worst fears are true. The storyteller is running the Mimic 1 program. For the next 5 nights, Edwin continues to sneak into the tree with large sheets of construction paper in an array of colors. Using a plain black marker, Edwin covers each sheet with odd stick drawings and strange symbols, as well as the words, "I'm sorry." He then sticks these papers on the interior of the tree's trunk, going as high as 6 feet. On Saturday, Mr. Burrows visits the Pizzaplex in hopes of catching Edwin. Instead, he discovers how he's getting into the tree, and by the following Tuesday has a control pad installed in his credenza that gives him command over all of the tree's functions. When Edwin sneaks in that night at 11:26 p.m., Mr. Burrows locks him in. The interior of the tree is airtight in order to maintain the optimal conditions for the storyteller's processors, and with no venting system Edwin only has the oxygen that had entered the room available to him once locked in. In his final moments, Edwin continues to draw on the construction paper he had brought with a crayon, writing, "I'm sorry." This is how Edwin's story ends. I wanted to have a straightforward video on his story because a lot of people don't know this pretty major character, and honestly can't really blame since you have to buy the book to know all of this. I kinda wish the game at least hinted at his existence, but it okay. Mimic will be the proof of his existence. Let me know what do y'all think of Edwin as a character. Not gonna lie, I kinda wish he wasn't killed off that early. Here was a lot of potential with him being alive. Maybe Doja could still be around, maybe possessing the Blob or Glamrock Freddy. Give your theory in the comment. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, I post a video every Friday, and yeah, Sile.